Hello, everybody. I'm Jillian Sakovits, and welcome to Full-Time Review. It is presented by Amazon Business. Coming up on today's show, I'll talk to the great Meg Linehan about Friday's scary moment when Angel City defender Savy King collapsed at BMO Stadium. And we'll be getting into what happened that night, why the league decided not to postpone the match, and what comes next. I'm joined now by Meg Linehan. Hi, Meg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for being here. This is a really important topic to dive into with you. Start us at the beginning and walk us through what happened in Los Angeles in Angel City versus the Royals.
Yeah, I mean, the short version is Savy King, looked really fine throughout the game. 74th minute, suddenly goes down, is in the middle of a play too, had passed the ball. Someone tries to pass the ball back to her, and she's trying to wave it off. She sits down on the field. And it's very clear very quickly that there is a medical situation happening. Game is stopped. She eventually is transported off of the field via a stretcher, immediately put into an ambulance and taken to a hospital. Officially, as of Monday morning, this has only been defined still as a medical event. We don't really have clarity as to what happened. Obviously, there are privacy considerations here. That's been one of the real themes of this. But in the meantime, because play was stopped in 74th minute, it's literally 1 minute short of what could be considered a complete game. So the play is stopped for about 10, 11 minutes and is eventually resumed after the fact. The players look pretty shaken. There are clear emotions. And the game is finished. There is essentially a prayer circle in the middle of the field with both teams, both Angel City and Utah, after the fact. And I think the question on everybody's mind ever since then is just, did they really have to finish playing this game?
So it begs the question, in that amount of time, Meg, what protocols did the league take when it came to potentially postponing this match that had to happen? Because like you mentioned, there was that 1 minute that would qualify it as a full match.
Right. So, there are public policies. I think everybody immediately went to the competition rules, which are available on the NWSL website. But they also have an internal document, their internal operations manual, that has a lot more information. And there were a few different provisions that could apply to the situation, whether that's a significant delay of game, anything over 5 minutes, serious injury to a player, anything that kind of falls under that category. And basically, the NWSL, and especially NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman, has leeway to make any decision it wants to, right? There is a process that needs to be followed, but there should have been some kind of communication between basically everyone in that stadium and the league front office to figure out what happens next. And at the end of the day, there is a provision in this operations manual that says we can throw out any process we want if we feel that it serves the best interest of that moment. And the league has that power, but especially NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman has that power.
What have you been able to learn about what communication did occur from the stadium to the front office?
So we have talked to sources. We talked to a lot of people. It is still not entirely clear. I think there is a hesitance. Obviously, this was such a serious medical event that I think there are concerns that there could be public repercussions if names get out, which I do really understand. At the end of the day, I also think there needs to be at least some form of accountability, but it does seem like league medical officials and league representatives of some kind did make this call. There was some level of conversation, but we are unclear as to how that exactly happened. And also on Monday, we have found out that the referee did at least talk to players to ask them, are you feeling okay to continue? Now, the referee does not have the power to end the game. That is not how these processes work. But the ref did at least check in with both teams. I will say the policy actually says the ref has to manage players and team staff on the benches during any significant delay. So that does seem like that was followed. She was at least trying to emotionally check in and be like, are you good to go? And both players did say, both teams did say yes. Now, were they in an emotional state to make that decision for themselves? Should they have been put in that position? Maybe not. That's a different conversation. But yeah, there's still a lot of questions. I don't know if we're ever going to get, minute by minute breakdown of how exactly this played out.
How fair, Meg, on Monday morning when we're recording this, do you think the criticisms so far have been from fans all the way to players themselves speaking out on social media? The most notable one being in NWSL, Rodman.
Yeah, Trinity Rodman, I think, was pretty clear. The game shouldn't have been played. And I think, you know what, I'd rather the league get a couple of these wrong where it's almost overkill to stop a game, right? Than to get it really, really wrong and have something very serious happen. I mean, I will say the operations manual also has a policy for what happens if there is a fatality during a game, right? And I don't think anyone ever wants to see that policy put into place. It's also extremely grim. It's also, I mean, if it's not a complete game, in theory, that game has to be replayed in full, which seems like a kind of ridiculous thing to ask of someone. So I do think it's probably better to just err on the side of caution and make a human decision. I mean, these are players' lives. Their bodies are their livelihoods. The emotions were really running high. I mean, when you have even Utah's head coach, a team that was losing in this moment, they're already down 1-0. They ended up losing 2-0, saying like, I don't think we needed to finish that game. Then it does feel like there is a common sense line that everyone can agree of like, yeah, you could have called the game.
Yeah, and we've seen this in sports throughout the world. People remember it from the Euros here in the U.S. and the NFL, Damar Hamlin having cardiac arrest on the field in 2023. That game was postponed. So there's, like you said, there's lessons to be learned, and you don't want to learn a lesson in a horrible way. So what would you say now, Meg, is the best path forward?
Yeah, I mean, and I do want to point out, too, that in the Damar Hamlin case and a few others, this was not a cardiac arrest as far as we can tell. Again, like we're reading between the lines here, but I think the league stressing that she was stable when she was taken off the field does indicate that it was probably not as serious as that event. Again, just a guess. But I do think there is a chance here to just kind of take a step back and say, do we have, honestly, the phone tree in place for a game that's going to start at 10:30 at night on the East Coast, right? Of who's around, what does the operations staff look like at the league? Obviously, they've hired a whole bunch on the commercial side. That growth is so important to the NWSL, but do we have the support mechanisms in the NWSL on player safety, player health, medical side, operations side that can step in a moment like this and be ready and empowered to make decisions in real time?
Meg, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Before we say goodbye today, did you know that The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports? That's right. Check out the Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. My name is Jillian Sakovits. Thank you so very much for listening to Full Time Review.